Welcome to Spine Chilling Chats podcast, where we like to spill the tea. If you're into the macabre and enjoy hearing about true crime, supernatural, or spooky experiences, pull up a chair, pour yourself a cup of tea, and get ready for some spine chilling chats with Manda and Ange.
Hi to all the spooks out there. I'm Ange.
And I'm Manda.
If this is your first time joining us, welcome.
Hi.
We're like the free samples at Costco. Irresistible and worth the stop.
Heck yeah.
And if this isn't your first time joining us, welcome back. We see you sneaking back for seconds.
Yep.
But don't worry, we won't tell.
Nope. Hi guys. So for our last and final August birthday, we will be covering Lonnie David Franklin Jr. So, remember when we were talking about three names? Mm-hmm. And it's weird to me that people have three first names.
Mm-hmm. I just took a big bite of cookie.
This one freaks me out because his name is Lonnie David Franklin. Those are all first names.
Yeah,
it's weird. Okay. So, Lonnie David Franklin Jr., a.k.a. the Grim Sleeper.
The Grim Sleeper.
Grim Sleeper. He was born August 30th, 1952. He had at least 10 murders under his belt and one attempted one from 1984 to 2007. So at least 10 with one attempted in that time. He was also convicted of rape and sexual violence. He got his nickname when he appeared to have taken a 14-year break from his crimes from 1988 to 2002. That's why he's called the Grim Sleeper. I was like...
That's really weird when they stop for a while.
Yeah, I thought serial killers have the urge to kill, so how do you just stop? If you can stop for that long, why can't you just stop altogether?
Right.
It don't make no sense.
It doesn't. Makes me wonder, are they really stopping, or are they just...
People not getting caught?
Yeah, or changing up their MO a little bit.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's true. It could be. All right, so he was born August 30th, 1952, and grew up in South Central Los Angeles, California. He was married and had 2 children. He was in the United States Army and had a dishonorable discharge. Go figure. Mm-hmm. In July of 1975, after being released from prison for his conviction of gang raping a 17-year-old girl in West Germany in April of 1974. So while he was in the Army, he gang raped a 17-year-old girl.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. 2 other servicemen and himself, stationed at Stuttgart, stopped and offered her a ride home, and she said yes. They put a knife to her throat and drove to a field and repeatedly raped her.
Oh.
She was able to gain interest in Franklin, so she tricked him and was able to make him like her and ask for his number, by which the police identified him by his number. During the gang rape, photos were taken and by the rapist and Franklin, who would also take the pictures. He would also do that to the women he raped and murdered. Franklin was convicted of 2 charges of theft, a misdemeanor for assault, and 1 charge of battery in 1989. He was only convicted and served time for 1 of the theft charges. That's it. Not battery, not the other theft charges or assault, nothing like that. Not much on his early life and childhood or his family. So again, one of those ones that doesn't have a lot background information. Yeah. In the mid-'80s, the LAPD became aware of a serial killer who targeted black women and were chronic drug users and street sex workers. I said it right this time. Not prostitutes.
Good job. See, we can teach old dogs new tricks.
He was dubbed the Southside Slayer at first and was responsible for stabbing and strangling at least 13 sex workers between 1983 and the late 1985. The murders were known as the Strawberry Murders, strawberry being slang for women who exchange sex for drugs.
Oh, yeah. I haven't heard that before.
Me either until this. The police department had a press conference that explained the case in September of 1985 and asked for help from the public. The press conference in LAPD was heavily scrutinized for their failure to alert the South Central community to a possible serial killer earlier. They were scrutinized because they didn't tell them earlier that there was a possible serial killer. They kept it under wraps. There were weekly protests outside the LAPD headquarters to pressure the department to form a task force to investigate the murders. And that was led by activist Margaret Prescott. and other community activists. Prescott attacked the LAPD for lack of police interest in the South Central murders, and they had given significant attention to the investigation of Richard Ramirez, the serial killer dubbed the Night Stalker, who targeted women in upstate areas of Los Angeles and San Francisco between June 1984 and August 1985. So he was killing at the same time as the Night Stalker. So I don't know.
Mm.
I think that they were all his. I don't think they're going to get confused with the Night Stalker, but whatever. She accused the LAPD of having an indifference to the deaths of women who were poor black drug users and sex workers. Of course, the LAPD denied the claim.
That's how it always is, though. Like with Samuel Little, you know, he got away with it because it was black drug using sex workers
that they think nobody's looking for or care about.
Yeah, and it's so wrong and so sad, but unfortunately, it's the truth.
Yeah, it is, and it's sad because it shouldn't be that way because they're still people.
Yeah,
They're still daughters, they're still mothers, they're still sisters. Like, they're people.
yeah.
It's sad that they think that way. By the late 1986, 15 murders had been linked to the case. They upped the amount of detectives added to the joint investigation between the LAPD and the LASD, which became known as the Southside Slayer Task Force. The case was still under investigation in 1986. They were offering for information on the killings. They wanted it to go from $10,000 to $25,000 for the reward money. In 1986, there were different MOs and suspect descriptions that had investigators doubting the original story of a single killer. It was suggested that several of the evidence had multiple serial killers. They are saying 4 or more, and that they were murdering women in South Los Angeles. In 1987, the Southside Slayer Task Force began cutting back on employees because there was no or lack of results, and the cost and pay for the manpower that was being used. In the task force commander, Lieutenant John Zorn, told the LA Times that in 1987 of December, I don't think his name's John Zorn, but he was a lieutenant, John something. He quotes, "The flow of clues is almost non-existent at this point." So they didn't have any kind of information for him to go on. So they had to start to disassemble the task force. Over the years, it was found out that the serial killer Lewis Crane committed at least 2 of what they called the Southside Slayer murders, and serial killers Michael Hughes, Daniel Lee Siebert, and Chester Turner and Ivan Hill did at least 1 each of the murders that were committed individually. More than likely related to the women's pimps or clients and unrelated to the serial killers. They think that the 4 murders were unrelated to serial killers and more than likely were committed by their
Pimps.
Johns and pimps.
Okay.
Judith Simpson, Cynthia Walker, and LaTanya Johnson were all murdered with a 9mm pistol in the late 1988. And they were also looked at by the Southside Slayer Task Force. In the trunk of Detective Rick Ross' car, that's funny, Ricky Ross, they found drugs and arrested him. They found a 9mm Beretta semi-automatic pistol, and they found a sex worker, not in his trunk, but they found a sex worker
I was gonna say,
in his car.
He did it.
So he was charged with the murders after they found all of that, after his gun was linked forensically by the LAPD to the bullets from the murders. Those 3 murders remain unsolved because he was released after an independent forensic analysis said that it was unlikely Ross's gun was the murder weapon.
Mm-hmm.
In one group of killings, they were linked by the use of a .25 caliber firearm, and those remain unsolved and unaccounted for by any other serial killers. The first murder was of Deborah Jackson in August of 1985, and that was linked to the murder of Henrietta Wright in August of 1986. By the firearm examination in 1987, there were 7 victims by the same gun. They had all been shot close range to the chest. Years later, the killer was dubbed the Grim Sleeper because he went a long time of inactivity between murders. In May of 2007, the murder of Janicia Peters, who was 25, was linked through DNA to at least 11 unsolved murders in LA. So the one murder that they found linked him to 11 other murders back from the 80s, with the first one being in 1985, the same year as a secret LAPD formed the 800 Task Force. And that was made up of 60 detectives and was run by the Robbery Homicide Unit. The news broke of the task force existence, with linking Peter's killing to the early murders and the silence of the mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa, and the police chief, William Joseph Bratton, regarding the killer's existence. So she outed them, and the community was not happy.
Well, good.
Villaraigosa and Bratton did not do a press release, or when the community was the first one to inform the families that their daughters had been victims of a serial killer was confirmed. So, like, the community was the one to tell them, not the investigators. In the beginning of September 2008, LA announced they were going to offer a $500,000 reward to help catch the killer. November 1st, the case was featured on America's Most Wanted. Bratton addressed the press regarding the case for the first time, and that's when he gave the killer the name of the Grim Sleeper. And that was chosen by LA Weekly. So they must have said it, and then he just dubbed him the Grim Sleeper. Like, that's what he was like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. Bratton also released the 911 call from the 1980s.
The 91.
That's what it says, 91. The 911 call from the 1980s, in which a man saw a body being dumped by Franklin, giving a detailed description and license plate number of the above, and connected to the now closed Cosmopolitan Church in March of 2009. An extensive interview with Anitria Washington, the only survivor of Franklin's attacks. She described him as a black man in his early 30s. He looked neat, tidy, and kind of geeky. He wore a black polo shirt tucked into his khaki trousers. She also described the van inside and out. The law enforcement had an opportunity to catch Franklin, but his DNA was not collected. They missed the opportunity in 2003 because they did not collect his DNA. He was convicted of a felony and served 3 years of a supervised probation in 2004. Voters passed the Proposition 69, which requires that DNA must be collected from all felons and everyone arrested on certain specific charges.
Good.
Yeah, that's good. It is required the expansion of the DNA database. The authorities collected and sorted through thousands of DNA samples while on probation. Franklin's DNA was supposed to have been entered into the database, but it wasn't.
What?
Yeah. Because between November 2004 and August 2005, his probation officer did not collect samples from people who are on unsupervised probation. But he was on supervised probation. So that's why I don't understand that. And now the probation department did not have the resources to collect samples until August of 2005. So it was a proposition for them to make it mandatory to collect DNA samples, and his probation officer failed to do so.
That is...
Yeah. Franklin was identified by familial DNA analysis. They didn't have an exact branches from the crime scenes, and the profiles in California seeing a database, so they searched the database and stored profiles that demonstrated sufficient similarity, and that's how they did the familial relationship DNA testing. They found DNA belonging to Franklin's son, Christopher, who had been convicted of a felony weapons charge in 2008. But he was too young to have committed the murders. He was too young to have committed the murders. But his DNA matched the investigators took to his father, Lonnie. So that's how they got his DNA finally, or they matched it to his son. And since his son's DNA matched, they had to rule him out because he was too young to commit the murders. So, an undercover police officer pretended to be a waiter where Franklin had ate dinner. He collected dishes, water glasses.
That's sneaky, and I love it.
Water glasses and pizza crust to get his DNA. According to Cooley, detectives used a piece of discarded pizza crust along with saliva found on the victims to do a DNA match on July 7th, 2010. Lonnie was arrested at the LA County District Attorney Office and charged him with 10 of the murders, one of them being the attempted murder, and special circumstances allegations of multiple murders. So they got him on at least 10 of the murders and the one attempted under the special circumstances. In December 16th, 2010, the LAPD had found 180 photos in Franklin's home after unsuccessfully attempt to identify the individuals. They were released publicly so that they can be identified. The LAPD quote, "These people are not suspects. We don't even know if they're victims, but we know this is Lonnie Franklin's reign of terror in the city of Los Angeles, which spent well over 2 decades culminating with almost a dozen murder victims. Certainly needs to be investigated further," stated the chief, Charlie Beck. But investigators found over 1,000 photos and several hundred hours of videos in his home with the images of mainly black women.
Creeper.
Yeah, over 1,000 photos and several hundred hours of video.
Like just watching them?
I don't know. They had a wide range of age, from teenagers to middle age and older, often nude women. The police believe Franklin took many pictures which showed both conscious and unconscious women dating back 30 years. They were released to the public in an effort to identify these women. Reuters reported the police were considering Franklin as a suspect in 6 more murders on November 3rd, 2011. They were investigating 2 of the 6 potential victims killed during a 14-year lapse of the initial of the Grim Sleeper murders that ended in 1988, and then several more that began in 2002. For the victims, 2 bodies were discovered in 1980s and 2 were reported missing in 2005, but the other 2 were never found. So there's 4, so 2 were discovered in 1980s, and then he had his break, and then 2 were reported missing in 2005. They were never found, and they were linked to the 6 additional killings after reviewing hundreds of cases, and with the public's help, identifying the collection of the 180 pictures that were found in his possession. He was charged with 10 murders, 1 attempted murder, and held without bail. He was not charged in the death of a suspected 11th victim, a black man, which DNA evidence was not found. After the trial and several delays, the trial finally opened on February 16th, 2016. Closing arguments happened on May 2nd, 2016, and the jury began deliberating on May 4th, 2016. On May 5th, after 3 months of trial and a day and a half of jury deliberation, he was convicted of all accounts, and the hearing sentencing was May 12th, 2016.
Good.
Yeah. At the hearing, they presented evidence about the 4 other victims that they think were killed by Franklin. Those 4 were not originally among the victims that were identified by the DNA and the ballistic as a group of the Grim Sleeper victims. They've only been identified after his arrest by the task force. There were 3 victims: Sharon Alicia Dismuke, Inez Warren, and Georgia Mae Thompson. They were identified as the Grim Sleeper victims when they were investigating an unsolved missing person and homicides going back to 1976. The 4th victim, Rolania Morris, was identified from the evidence found in Franklin's garage. Her body was never found. They did not charge Franklin with the murders of these 4 because it might delay the trial even further. So on June 6, 2016, LA County jury sentenced Franklin to death. On August 10th, Superior Court sentenced Franklin on each individual victims on March 28, 2020. Franklin was found dead in his cell. There were no signs of trauma, and what had caused his death and the results of the autopsy have been not publicly released.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they believe that Franklin's first victim was Sharon Alicia Dismuke. She was killed in 1984, January 15th. But his first confirmed was Deborah Jackson, who occurred in August of 1985. And then he took a 14-year hiatus. Like, he was like, okay,
That's a big
I know.
Like, to only have done one, possibly two,
Yeah.
and then to just call it quits for 14 years.
Right.
Like, that's weird.
It is weird. Like I said, if you can quit for that long, why can't you quit for good?
Well, and, at two, I wouldn't consider them a serial killer. Like,
No, not at all. Not at all. Like, you're just a murderer.
yeah, like, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. Well, there's been some serial killers that they dub serial killers that only killed 3 to 4 victims, which
That's true. Well,
to
yeah.
which to me is not necessarily a serial killer either. You know what I mean? Like, it could be.
Yeah.
But if you killed them all 4 at the same time, you're just a murderer.
Yeah, all if you kill somebody all at the same time, like, that's more like a spree.
Right. I wouldn't count that as a serial killer.
I don't consider spree killers serial killers.
No. All of his victims were black women, with one suspected victim a black man. They were sex workers, and he had known to have frequent contact with them. They were found outdoors in alleys a short distance from downtown LA. He shot all of his victims with a .25 caliber gun, and he took many, many, many nude photographs. So, there are other names that they thought that he would be going by, but here are some of his victims.
All right.
The Grim Sleeper. 21-year-old Sharon Alicia Dismuke was found in South Park, Los Angeles, January 15, 1984. She was not considered a Grim Sleeper victim until after he was arrested. Mm-hmm. And the M.O. of Dismuke's murder to Franklin's other murders were presented at his sentencing. Deborah Ronette Jackson, 29, shot 3 times in the chest, and her body was found on August 10, 1985, in an alley near West Garage Avenue in Vermont, Slauson, Los Angeles. 35-year-old Henrietta Wright, multiple gunshot wounds on August 12, 1986, in an alley near the 2500 block of West Vernon Avenue in Hyde Park, Los Angeles. She was found under a mattress, and she may have been killed elsewhere and dumped in the alley.
So there's just a random mattress in the alley?
It's Los Angeles.
I've never been.
Of course there is. This is the man, Thomas Sylvester Steele, 36. He was found dead on August 14th, 1986 at the intersection of 71st Street and Halldale Avenue in Harvard Park, Los Angeles. Because of the lack of evidence, he was not charged. They said Steele's kill was possibly because he was a friend of another victim that had been discovered.
Oh.
Yeah. That had, his discovered Franklin's crimes.
Yeah.
23-year-old Barbara Bethune Ware. Bethune? I don't know. Bethune. Isn't that weird? It's not hyphenated, so that's got to be your middle name. Bethune. On January 10th, 1987, she was found dead at the 1300 block of East 56 in Central Alameda, Los Angeles. Alameda? Bernita Rochelle Sparks, 26. April 15th, 1987, 9400 block of Southwestern Avenue in Gramercy Park, Los Angeles is where she was found dead. She had been shot, and her body was thrown in a trash bin.
Oh.
Yeah.
People deserve more respect than that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just throw them in a trash can like they're nothing.
Yeah. Again, they're not people.
Yeah.
26-year-old Mary Catherine Lowe was found dead on October 31st, 1987 in the 8900 block of Western Avenue in Gramercy Park, Los Angeles. She was also dumped in an alley and covered after being shot. So they've all been shot.
I mean, of the ways to go,
I guess being shot.
If it's an immediate death,
but he shot
kill
some
shot.
of them in the chest.
Oh.
You can die instantly from that too, but
yeah, most likely you're not, though.
Right. I don't know how to say this. Latricia, Lachrica. Lachrica?
Latrica?
Latrica? Denise Jefferson. She was 22. On January 30th, 1988, she was found dead in the 2000 block of West 102nd Place in Westmont, Los Angeles. Didn't say how she died, but I'm assuming
Shot?
she was shot. Inez Elizabeth Warren, 28. She was shot on August 15th, 1988, and she was found unconscious in an alley, but then died at a nearby hospital in Gramercy Park, Los Angeles. She was not considered a Grim Sleeper victim until after his arrest, because she was found alive. She didn't die until later.
Were they able to, like, interview her?
Oh, it didn't say. It just says she died later at a nearby hospital.
That would have been convenient if they could.
Oh, yeah. 18-year-old Monique Alicia Alexander. She was killed on September 11th, 1988. She was dumped in an alley near 43rd Place and Western Avenue in Vermont Square, Los Angeles. I can't say she was dumped. She was found. Anitra Margaret Washington, age 30, was attacked in Gramercy Park, Los Angeles, and she's the only confirmed survivor.
Oh, wow.
This was on November 20th of 1988. She's the one that accepted the ride from Franklin before he drove her down the alley, and he shot her and left her for dead, but she survived. Oh, I love this name. Georgia May Thomas. Georgia May. Love it. She died on December 28th, 2000. She was 43. She was shot in South Park, Los Angeles, and was not suspected of being the Grim Sleeper's victim until evidence linking Thomas's murder to Franklin's other murders. And that was presented at the sentencing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Princess Cheyenne Bartholomew. Isn't that cute? Princess. Cheyenne Bartholomew. She was only 15.
Oh.
Yeah. He said teenagers to middle age.
Yeah.
And, yeah, 15. But she was strangled and beaten.
That's different.
It is different. On March 19th, 2002, in Inglewood, California, in an alley. Her nude body was found by somebody who was just walking by, driving by, and they found her in the bushes. She had been last seen by her family on December 21st, 2001. So that's not his normal MO.
No. Are they sure it's his?
They didn't say. But they didn't say. But I'm sure they linked him. They linked her somehow to him. Maybe DNA or something.
Maybe. Because this is a later
Yeah,
one,
this
so
was
they had
2002.
DNA.
So they had DNA testing then. Valerie Louise McCorvey, she was 35. On July 11, 2003, she was found dead on Denker Avenue between 108th and 109th Streets in Westmont, Los Angeles County. Another teenager, Aaliyah Bo Zata Marshall. How it's spelled.
Oh.
Yeah. She was last seen at a medical facility in Hawthorne, California. Her body was never found. When she was last seen, it was February 1st, 2005. Her school card, like her ID card, was found in Franklin's garage.
I'd say it was him.
And that was evidence linking him to Marshall's, but was not sufficient to pursue. Because her body was never found. He just had her card. He could have found it on the ground or whatever.
How convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's just me speculating.
Yeah.
31-year-old Rolania Adele Morris. She was last seen in the 9000 block of Southwestern Avenue in Los Angeles, California. Her body was never found, but her driver's license and 2 sexually explicit pictures were found in his garage. They presented the evidence at Franklin's sentencing, and this was on September 10th, 2005, is when she went missing, or was last seen. Janicia Lavette Peters, she was only 17. January 1st, 2007 is when she was found dead in the 9500 block of Southwestern Avenue in Gramercy Park. She had been shot and covered with a garbage bag.
Just need to stay away from Gramercy Park.
stay away from Los Angeles.
Yeah, yeah.
Jeez. So the Grim Sleeper had several other possibilities of being somebody else. So one of them being the Belize Ripper. Yeah. They thought that he could be the suspect for the abduction, rape, and murder of 5 girls in Belize City between 1998 and 2000. So that, again, is when he was during his hiatus.
Yeah, so it might not have actually been a hiatus. He just moved.
He just moved to a different
area.
city.
Which that seems more likely, than just a serial killer stopping.
I said city, country.
Country, yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know where Belize is.
I know. He had connections to the country because his marriage to Sylvia Castillo. She was from Belize.
Okay.
So his 14-year break matched the murder sprees of one of the victim's aunts who saw him in Belize City at the time. And saw him use the van in one of his provoking killings in Belize. So he still kept his fucking van. Like, if you're going to move because you think you're going to get caught, why would you keep the same car?
How did he get it?
I don't know.
He just drove it?
He must have. These were all circumstantial evidence of him being the Belize Ripper, and he was never charged with the killings.
That's some bull.
And then there were Edwinta Hereford. She was 19. She was found dead on May 16th, 2010, on the 105 freeway near Garfield Avenue in Paramount, California. She had been pushed from a speeding car moving east on the highway. So that doesn't sound like his MO either.
Mm-mm.
It was discovered, her body was discovered within an hour of being thrown. She had been killed, or she died from blunt force trauma. And she was last seen at Snappy's Liquor near Imperial Highway and Normandy Avenue in Westmont, California. She was in the same general area as the other Grim Sleeper killings. If Hereford's case could be connected to the Grim Sleeper murders, the lead investigator in her case said they have not yet ruled it out, but it remains unsolved. These are possible murders. There were 4 missing women who could have been Franklin's victims, according to the relatives. They went to the area of Franklin's house, like where he lived, and where the bodies of his victims were discovered. And they were involved in drug use and prostitution. They said prostitution, not me.
I just Googled it, and it's a 41-day... Oh, hold on. That's for walking.
41 day for walking?
Shit. It's a 2 days, 4 hours to drive from Los Angeles to Belize.
Oh.
So
I mean, that's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad.
He took it.
He took it. He did it. Supposedly.
Well, he had to have.
Yeah.
He was in Belize, and he had the same van.
Yeah.
So, he did it.
Allegedly.
Catherine Davis, 32, was one of his possible victims. She was last seen on June 9th, 1982, in the 400 block of West 49th Street in Los Angeles. Rosalind Giles. Oh, Giles? Wasn't that one of ours? Giles? Maybe I just watched it on a documentary.
That doesn't sound familiar.
I think it was a documentary one. She was 26 years old. And on January 10th, 1981 was the last time she was seen, or 1991 was the last time she was seen. She was also last seen in the 400 block of East 64th Street in Los Angeles. Lisa Renee Cox, 28, was last seen in the 1000 block of 22nd Street on May 11th, 1993 in Los Angeles. Anita Yolanda Parker, 37, was last seen on November 17th, 1998 in the 6000 block of Brenhurst Avenue in Los Angeles. Franklin was described by neighbors as friendly and quiet, and he didn't fit the killer profile, a serial killer profile, because he was described friendly and nerdy and whatnot. He worked on cars in his front yard. And he would always talk to people who were walking by.
I hate it when people do that.
Me too. Like
I'm not here to socialize with you, dude. I'm just
No.
trying to pass your house.
That's like the meme that says, my neighbor said hi to me today, so now I got to move.
Yeah.
You know, like, because no.
Yeah.
No.
I hate
There's a fence
social
between
contact.
my backyard and my neighbor's backyard, and sometimes he'll yell over the fence, "Hey, neighbor." And I'm like, fuck. Because he stands outside the back door, and he smokes, so he can see me leave. And sometimes he'll yell, "Hey, neighbor," and then ask me a question, and I'm like, fuck, man. So, of course, I answer him, and I go about my business. Like, no. And now, across the street from me was a little boy that I used to teach at the school. He now lives across the street from me. So now, of course, everything is Miss Vance when I go outside the front door. And I'm like, oh, like, I like you, kid. Now his mom talks to me. So, and then the neighbors on the other side, like, when they first moved in, they were all chatty and stuff. And now they say hi to me all the time. And I'm like, do I look friendly?
Yes.
Do I?
Yes.
I try not to be.
You would think with the tattoos and the piercings you wouldn't, but you do.
Oh.
It's because you're so little.
I'm just literally cute.
Yeah, you're little. You're little. Yeah, all my neighbors are chatty too.
I don't like it.
Like,
I mean, they're nice.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yes. All of ours are very nice too. Like, next door, Jean, she comes over and like brings Aurora little things that she finds.
Is she the one that brought the plate over?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the apple butter?
Apple butter jar, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which, you know,
it's
nice.
nice.
It's nice to know your neighbors, but I don't like talking to people.
No, not at all. And it is nice knowing your neighbors because you know if anything happens, they got your back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, talk to them like that.
You want to have a good relationship with them.
Don't keep
But you don't want to socialize with them necessarily.
Yes. So they said that he didn't fit the profile of a serial killer because over 80% of the serial killers are white and between the ages of 20 and 30. And he was a black man and he was 32 and he committed his first murder. So, because he was 2 years older and he was of a different color. They didn't think he fit the serial killer profile. Yeah.
How'd that work out for them?
Well,
maybe we shouldn't stereotype people.
Right. Because it didn't work out well for them at all.
No.
Of course, we already know that he chose his victims that nobody would miss. Sex workers, drug addicts, things like that. Which strayed from the standard profile, too, of a serial killer. Because they target mostly white women.
Now, I'm curious if they just go on like sexual preference that way, like a black male finds a black female more attractive than a white woman, because like Samuel Little, he went for
white women.
No, he
went for black women,
and he was a black man too.
Well, and we've covered some serial killers that didn't necessarily have a preference; they killed white and black women.
But like most of the serial killers are white men, and they predominantly go for white women, or white children. That could be. I'm just wondering if that's. So if you see where a lot of black women are disappearing and being found murdered, then your profiler should be black male. But then are we just stereotyping and I don't know.
Well, see, that's like the I watched that's like the movie that I just watched, Trap, where there was a FBI profiler on serial killers, and on Mindhunters there's an FBI profiler on serial killers, and they're like spot on.
Yeah. It makes me wonder because there's not that many black serial killers out there.
No. So, although I think I read somewhere there was like 109. Something like that.
That's not many.
That's not out of the whole population.
Yeah, in comparison to all the white ones there are.
Yeah.
We'd be killing them all up here.
So, it's...
I'd be interested to see the victim profiles of those and see if it is a...
color thing?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. But that's a lot of research and a lot of looking up.
Well, I'm not going to do it. I was just curious. Somebody else can do that. It might
Anybody wants to do that.
It might already be out there. I might just be able to do a Google search real quick and it tell me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm sure because they, like I said, they have FBI profilers,
Yeah.
so that can get it down to like the science of it.
Just a thought.
So there was the Black Coalition Fighting Back Serial Murderers, and that was formed in 1989. And they protested at the LAPD's building where the police were not policing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call it when they drive around? Policing?
I don't
Sure.
know.
Sure. Where the murders happened. The coalition said it was irresponsible and racially motivated, and the information about the murders and the profiles were not released in order to protect black women. So let's not release it so we can protect them. But they don't know they're even in danger. I think it would be better if you release the information so I can protect myself. If I don't know I'm in danger, how am I going to protect myself?
Yeah.
And they didn't release it to protect the black women. And keep them safe, but that didn't work out so well because they didn't know they were even in danger.
Right here it just says serial killers do frequently cross racial lines.
Oh.
In particular, some white male serial killers have historically targeted black and indigenous women because police and the general public are less likely to treat their disappearances like seriously.
Oh. Yeah, why not indigenous women? Like, I don't get that. I understand there's this whole... I got to watch a documentary on it. Like, I'm curious, like, why they target indigenous women. Like, it's a big, huge deal now.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge. So I'm kind of curious. I want to know about that stuff.
I have one podcast that I've listened to a little bit. I'm not thinking of the name offhand, where she is an indigenous woman and she is researching
all the
indigenous cases,
disappearances and murders and stuff.
Yeah.
Ooh, you got to find out what it is because I'm curious about that. So there was new evidence and a survivor, which was Anitra Washington. She had bullet wounds that were matched to those in the old cases, and that's how he was caught, along with the description. So they matched the bullets and the description to Lonnie, and that's one of the reasons why he was sentenced and what do you call it? Sentenced and put in prison.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled up along her orange Ford Pinto, offering her a ride. Now, you have your own car. Why would you get into the car? She initially declined the offer. Like, good, but then she ends up getting in the car because he says, and I quote, "That's what's wrong with you black women. People can't be nice to you."
The podcast is called Stolen.
Okay.
And the first season is about the search of one missing woman.
Okay.
Specifically, Jermaine. I'm trying to see where it says who it's by. Connie Walker.
All right.
Yeah, so check it out.
I will. So Franklin said, "That's what's wrong with you black women. People can't be nice to you." So then she felt bad and she felt sorry for him. So she accepted the ride, even though she still had her car there. And then she felt blood coming out of her, like warm blood coming out of her. And she realized she was shot.
Oh my gosh.
Like, how do you not, like, I'm sure it happens so fast that you don't realize, like, you hear a big boom or whatever. You don't realize that you're shot. But, like, yeah. And he said it was because she disrespected him. Yeah. He pushed her out of the vehicle, left her for dead, but he raped her first, and he took her photo. So, that's, let's take photos of our victims and keep them in our garage so we can get caught and put in prison.
He wants to be able to live that over and over and look at them.
Ugh. So, controversial use of DNA brought him down. That's what brought him down, because of the DNA of his son.
Mm-hmm. Familial. Yeah, familial. Not familiar.
Not familiar.
That's a cat.
Or a dog.
Or a dog. Or any animal, really.
Yeah, any animal. Bratton assembled a task force to solve the murders. Evidence from the .25 caliber gun was used. DNA from the crime scenes and Washington's description of Franklin all were key roles in his capture. He was considered the longest operating serial killer west of the Mississippi. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, good for him.
Oh yeah, and then finally putting his DNA into the database is what sealed the deal. And that's about all I got.
Okay.
And up to their like more victims or what do you call them? Not attempted, but survivors.
I was trying to figure out where you're going with it, but I didn't.
Survivors. Victims or survivors. Like, they believe that there is a lot more out there.
Well, yeah, and I fully believe that he didn't stop, that he was...
Just moved.
For police, yeah. I think he was moving around, and that's... Because it's really weird to just stop for a while.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, like...
And then the police is just too perfect to not have been him. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And they're all similar.
And so they couldn't have, like, I don't know, found out where he went in those years.
Well, they didn't know who it was at first.
Yeah, but now that they do, like,
right.
Couldn't they have found out where he was during that time frame where he was supposedly not active besides police?
Right.
And see, if any of those match his MO. And see if he was responsible for those too.
Mm-hmm.
So those families can get, that closure that they probably are looking for all these years.
Probably. I mean, they could have. You think that they would have.
Yeah, that'd be interesting if somebody
knew about
were to do that.
Yeah.
To look and see where he was at and see if they could link it to him.
Yeah, that would be cool to find that out. So he, even though he wasn't charged with Thomas Steele's murder, he was a friend of one of Franklin's victims. There were anywhere from 14 to 100 unsolved murders of Jane Does.
Oh my gosh.
But he maintains his innocence on all the charges.
Yeah, I bet he does. Or bet he did.
Yeah. So he was sentenced. He was on death row in San Quentin State Prison. He was sentenced to death. Nobody had been put to death since 2006. His conviction would be appealed, and the right afforded to anyone sentenced to death. But it's safe to assume he will live his life in jail and not kill again.
Unless he kills in jail.
No, because there's no women. And the one guy that he was never tied to, never convicted of, even though he was friends with the female victim that he murdered.
Yeah.
And that was the grim sleeper, Lonnie David Franklin Jr.
Yeah.
He looks yuck.
I see. He's not bad.
No, but like just knowing what he did.
Yeah. Well, any of them are yuck.
Well, yeah, they're all yuck. That was a mugshot taken in 1998.
So that was a while ago.
That was, so who knows what he looks like recently.
What?
Here we go. Here we go.
4th or 5th grade.
So. Oh, yeah. There was an article done on him about he was a serial killer that was caught by a slice of pizza.
Oh, because of the crust.
Could you imagine being this prolific serial killer and you were brought down by a slice of pizza?
Mm.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. God.
That's funny.
Yeah. That's hilarious. But, yeah. Lonnie David Franklin Jr. What a great stand-up guy.
Good riddance.
Yes. That's what I say.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe. Please like our videos. Please comment on them. So
We know you're listening because we know you are, and we appreciate it very, very much.
and it's so fun for us to see all the different countries that are starting to pop up.
Yes.
As to listening to us.
and all the views.
Yes, we get really excited.
Yes.
Like I'm constantly looking and screenshotting it to Amanda and be like, we've got somebody from North Ireland, or look, we got somebody in Scotland.
Yes, she is all the time.
It's really exciting for us.
It is. And so, we hope that you guys, tell other people about our podcast and get us some more followers, because we love you guys and
we want to continue doing this.
Yes.
Like we have fun with this and we want to keep doing it.
We really do. Yeah. So you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all under Spine Chilling Chats podcast.
Yep. You can check us out on our website, www.spine-chillingchatspodcast.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can email us directly at spinechillingchatspodcast@gmail.com. But there is no hyphen in Spine Chilling on our email.
We encourage you guys to send us stories and any kind of thing that you want us to talk about. If it's a story that you personally encountered, or just a serial killer that you find interesting that nobody knows about, or even if they do know about it, but
or alien abductions, if you've had
or
one of
any mysterious mysterious things too, we will omit your name if you don't want it on there. We will keep your name if you do want it on there. We can change it, it doesn't matter, but you let us know when you send us the email.
Yep. But yeah, we're excited. We hope you guys keep coming.
Yes.
We hope you spread the word.
Mm-hmm.
And we hope you
keep it spooky.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Spine Chilling Chats, your go-to podcast for all things murder, paranormal, and macabre. Keep sipping that spooky tea and diving into the darkness with us. If our tales have sent chills down your spine, don't forget to hit subscribe and share with your fellow lovers of the haunting and horrific. See you next time.